Welcome back to the Creative Spark. Today we are back talking about my 52 movies in 52 weeks. And have watched our first movie for March. So the first movie that I picked out of the jar for March was, drumroll please, I don't really have a drum roll. So it was The Birdcage. Finally, I got to watch The Birdcage. Now, this is one of those films that everyone has been telling me for years that I will love. For years. My dad has been hounding me for a decade, being like, "You haven't watched The Birdcage? Have you never watched The Birdcage? You need to watch The Birdcage." And then as I was making this list, I obviously put it on, and a lot of people who I was saying, when I was running down kind of the reference of it, and I said I'd never seen it, everyone was like, "What do you mean that you, as a human being, like as all that I entail, have not watched The Birdcage? Like, that just doesn't make any sense." So we have now watched the movie. And as expected, I loved it. I loved it. It was phenomenal. It was comedy gold. Saying that, obviously, you cannot go wrong with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane and Christine Baranski and Hank Azaria. Like, what a cast. What a cast. Just like now, I had seen a lot of clips from it. So there's a lot of bits that I had seen. There was a lot of parts that I had seen. But not in its like complete flow as the movie was intended. And there were also bits that obviously had seen out of context. So how do we break this down? Honestly, I need to dissect this film and not just rave on about how much I enjoyed it. So obviously, the concept of this film, for people who haven't seen it, is that a gay couple played by Nathan Lane and Robin Williams own a drag club in, I believe it's South Beach. And their son, who is the biological son of Robin Williams, but they raised him together, comes home and tells his dad that he is getting married to a girl who has some very conservative parents. She's not conservative, but her parents are. Her dad is in politics in the Conservative Party, and that he wants to have dinner with all of them basically, but he wants his parents to pretend to be not themselves. And like in that, if you genuinely think about the storyline without anything of like the like actual script, the actors, um it's a really like it's a sad concept that this kid comes home and wants to pretend that his other dad or his mother, who would probably be transgender in the current, if it was made today, um or non-binary, that he wants to erase who they are. And that's it's a really sad concept. But the whole process of the film is is him also coming to the realization that he doesn't want his parents to be anyone other than who they are, and he loves them, and he loves them just the way they are. And his like fiance also loves them just the way they are, and they all are going to end up being one odd but happy family. Christine Baranski plays his biological mother, who Robin Williams had they were in a musical together and had a one night where he was like, "You know what? Let's try it with a woman." And bang, they got a son out of it. So, what a happy accident. But the comedic timing is perfection. I mean, Robin Williams comedic timing. His whole life was perfection. And the way people talk about that he was like looked after all of his friends and family um as a human being. This was the film that the two of them went on Oprah, and Oprah basically tried to out Nathan Lane on live television. We all talk about how Oprah's so amazing, and yet you watch that like interview, and I mean it was of the time, and obviously I'm sure she's probably seen the error of her ways these days, but like, come on, like there is like you watch that interview, and she quite literally is pushing him, being like, "Well, how do you play like if you're straight? Like, how do you play such like a camp gay man? How do you do it so well?" And Robin Williams, being the gallant knight of a man that he was, stepped up, made a joke, and changed the subject. Because he was like, my friend's not ready to talk about this yet. Shut up, basically. Like, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. Like, no. Um, so yeah, I love that. They had such a gorgeous relationship on and off screen. Um, the son, who was played by an actor, oh, I don't have his name written down. I really should have written his name down. Was kind of like an institution playing a queer associated character on in like the 80s and 90s. So he has an episode of Sex in the City where he's a pastry chef, and Charlotte keeps trying to like figure out if he's gay or straight. That was reminded to me by one of my friends. Thank you, Mez. And then there's also like I know him from his like 4 or 5 episode arc on Will and Grace, where he has just come out in his like late 30s. He's doesn't fit with the gay community, and basically they have a Pygmalion moment, and Will and Jack give him a makeover and turn him into a very, very hot gay man. And then they both fall in love with him. And it's it's actually some of my favorite Will and Grace episodes. They are it's one of my all-time favorite shows. So anyway, that's where I know him from. Here we go. And then Callista Flockhart. Don't try and say that fast. I just cut it out a bit where I definitely said something else. Callista Flockhart plays this young 18-year-old girl who wants to marry him. And she's so young. They're all so young in this film. But the drag, like the slapstick, the slapstick comedy, like the flip. Let's try this again. But the physical comedy of Nathan Lane in this film is next level. He's like, everyone just forgets how much of a great actor he is, because you watch him play this super flamboyant, very feminine man, and then you watch him in Producers, where he's playing this like kind of like cringe, female obsessed, like kind of gross, like producer, and we love him in both. He sings. Like he sings, he acts, he can dance. Like he's one of the greats, and I appreciate him in everything that I end up watching him in. I should rewatch The Producers. I love that movie. When I first saw it in 2005, and I was deep in a Phantom of the Opera obsession at the time, so like I didn't really like appreciate it. I remember walking out being like, what the hell was that? Rewatched it again about 5-10 years later and was like, this is amazing. This is amazing. But we're not here to talk about The Producers. We're talking about The Birdcage. It's just comedy gold is basically what we're talking about. But it also has heart, which is what makes it good. It at the heart of it is a 20-year-old boy trying to figure out where his family fits in, conservative America, basically. And him trying to fit in, but then realizing that he's like, no, what I have is better. Like, the way I was raised was fine. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I love my parents. I love them for just the way they are. And that's who I want them to be. And it's also an interesting like parallel because obviously it's majority of the stories are told from the queer kids point of view, where the queer kids comes home, comes out as gay, and the parents want them to be less than they are. The parents want them to be either don't want to hear it and kick them out, which is obviously an all too regular story but regular occurrence in real life. Or they're like, fine, you can be gay, but like just don't be too big. Like don't be too camp. Um so it's a very interesting parallel to watch them create this movie that is a flip, where it's instead of a queer child, it's queer parents with a straight child trying to figure out how that dynamic works. I'm not going to go on about it for too much longer. I loved it. I would give it, it's 100% 5 stars from me. And if you have not watched it and you love a good comedy with heart, with some of the great comedians of the 20th century, 80s and 90s, then I cannot recommend enough. Early days, Hank Azaria as well, playing this Guatemalan, um, this queer Guatemalan boy who's not a boy, I guess he's a man. He's probably in his like mid-20s, who wants to be on stage as a drag queen downstairs, but doesn't really have any talent. And so he ends up as the house man, like as the houseboy, as the butler. And his comedy gold is also great. So I don't really have anything else to say about it. I'm going to wrap this up. We're going to keep this one short and sweet. Anyway, we're going to wrap this up here. I'm sending everyone love and light, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Comment below if you have seen the Birdcage, or if you're going to watch it. And if you do, let me know your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos, and hit the little bell icon so you get notifications. And I will see you next time on The Creative Spark.